Well, good morning, everybody. I hope that you have your socks on. Pretty cool socks. I can't thank you enough for being here for our first ever SAUCE user conference. It's really a big deal to all of us at SAUCE, and we have some incredible speakers lined up for you, great educational speakers, some fabulous sponsors that are going to be doing some fun stuff, and a couple of great events. So if there's anything that I or any of the staff can do to make this a better event, we really want to hear from you directly. I think I'm supposed to be advancing. Am I not advancing? I think I need a battery, guys. Oh, there we go. So I'm going to go really quickly on a subject that is important to me, really interesting to me, and I hope that what I have to say is interesting to you too. The 8088 chip that drove the first IBM personal computer had to be designed, and then it had to go through a simulation phase like every other chip before it and since. When they did the simulation, if you will, for the 8088, Intel rented out a gymnasium in Phoenix, Arizona. They plotted out the schematic of the chip. They laid it out on the gymnasium floor, taped it to the floor, and the engineers spent the weekend doing what they called walking the line. And that was physically, with their finger on the line, making sure that all the circuits lined up appropriately. That's not that long ago. And when I joined IBM, I was selling to circuit design and simulation engineers, and it was just after the 88 came out, and they were just getting ready to do simulation on the 8286. And they realized because it had more than 1 million transistors, the density of the chip required that they do in-machine full chip simulation. The operating system that the simulation application was written in was 16-bit addressing. They needed 32-bit addressing in order to load the whole chip onto the application in the operating system. 16-bit, I mean, that's pretty amazing that that's what they were dealing with. IBM was not interested in developing a 32-bit addressing version of virtual machine. And so the first 8 months of my career with IBM, I went around the company trying to find an executive that would be willing to sponsor the migration to 32-bit addressing. I finally found a guy, and he said, here's how it works, Charles. You find 50 customers, we'll put 100 engineers on it, and it will take us 2 years to deliver. And obviously, that was not a satisfactory answer for my customer, Intel. And as a result, I came back to Phoenix where I was working with the team, and I had the great fortune of having part of my organization a guy named Tony Briggs, an unsung hero in our industry. And Tony could write assembler code as fast as I'll ever be able to imagine being able to type. And Tony said, you know, I might be able to do something here. Let me spend the weekend on it. And Tony took probably 10 jugs of coffee, because that seemed to be what Tony lived on permanently. And over the course of the weekend, he hacked a version of 32-bit addressing on an operating system that was 16-bit addressing. And it taught me two things. It taught me, number one, the power of hackers. And Tony would never allow his check from IBM to be automatically deposited into his bank account because he was afraid of hackers, number one. And number two, the speed with which a really great engineer can deliver great product. And at that time, computing to most people was hardware. Big boxes in huge data centers, lots of blinking lights made for a great movie fare, and that's how people really thought about the computing industry. Behind the scenes, of course, as all of you know, there were people building great applications and working to ensure that they worked appropriately, no matter what the use case was. We've made a lot of changes since then, and now, because of the consumerization of technology, everybody knows what an app is. I mean, people are putting apps on their mobile devices and taking them off all the time, all day long. I want to talk a little bit about where I see this leading. And because we're all so well educated, especially you in this room, this is not going to be new news. But let me dive in. Moore's Law is a major participant or vector in the kinds of things that we're able to do with software. And I'm sure everybody in the room knows what Moore's Law is, but it's the doubling of compute power per integrated circuit over the course of a 2-year period. Doubling. So a doubling is an impressive thing when it happens over time. And I'm going to introduce to you a book in just a minute. And there's a story in the book about India before the birth of Christ. And there was a king, and he had a person in his kingdom that created chess. And he was so enthusiastic and excited about the game of chess that he said to this fellow, "Name any price, and I will give you whatever you want." And the guy said, "Well, I'm a simple man, so I would like a grain of rice doubled for every square on the chessboard." So that's 1 grain on the first square, 2 on the second, 4 on the third, etc. By the time you got to the 32nd square, there were 4 billion grains of rice on the chessboard. So it's what happens next that gets really interesting. That's a lot of grains of rice. And that is the power of doubling. And that is what Moore's Law has enabled all of you to use as your vehicle to build better, faster apps. The second item is digitization of everything. So Facebook, there are 1.94 billion active Facebook users today. 1.75 billion of them are active using mobile devices. Amazon processes 53 orders a second. Instagram, 700 million active Instagram users, and in March of last year, there were 40 billion images posted on Instagram. That's a whole lot of data. So now we've got a lot of power, and we have a lot of data. And the next layer is the combinatorial nature of software. And what happened to me when 2001 Google Earth came out, I went and looked at every home I'd ever lived in my life. And it was just the most magical experience to be able to look at the neighborhoods and the places that I'd lived. And that was 2001. And since that time, there has been a whole lot of additional work done. One of my favorite applications is Waze. Waze is free. And what it does is it takes all kinds of modern technologies along with massive amounts of data and makes it available to us so that we can circumvent a traffic jam on our way to work. And we take it so lightly, but it is that combination of GPS technology, information about where we are, the use of crowdsourced information, truly an amazing application. And those are the kinds of applications that are going to allow us to continue to evolve really rapidly. And I'm going to make probably the most historic, trite statement of this entire conference, and just excuse me. We're on the verge of really the most important and the most fun time in our industry, because the resources that all of you and all of your peers have available to you is incredible. The book that I was talking about, there it is, The Second Machine Age, I recommend, and I'm not on the take here, I recommend that everybody in this room read this book, because what it talks about is what's going to happen with AI, machine learning, and deep learning. And they paint the picture unusually in a positive light. And there are a lot of futurists that paint a pretty bleak picture of what can happen with these technologies. I happen to be a believer that we're going to come out the other side with significantly better information and resources available to us, but it's absolutely going to change the way we interface with machines and the way that we interface with each other for the positive, I'm convinced. Anyway, the reason that I'm telling you all this, I joined Sauce Labs in April of 2015, and one of the visions that I have for this company is to be a participant in the use of machine learning to help automate the automation for testing. And it's hard work. We have a lot of work to do as a vendor. This is one of the areas where I think we can really provide significant added value for you, and it is where I'm driving the company. So, long way of telling you where I see this company headed. So, really, this is about what's on the horizon. And when we think about our customers and our prospects, we tend to try and bucketize them so that we know how to communicate with them where they are in their journey. And that's waterfall, very traditional development methodologies. Fast waterfall, they're starting to use some level of automation. Continuous integration and continuous delivery, they're really starting to use parallel processing so that they can do their testing much more rapidly. Continuous deployment is something that some of our customers can achieve given their application set. But what that requires is what we call remediation. And remediation to us means being able to identify where tests are failing and identify solutions for them. Over time, going back to my machine learning explanation, what we would like to do is use machine learning to be able to fix or resolve those problems on the fly and then let the user know that we had made those changes. This is going to require from you a participation in sharing information with us. And we have some thoughts about that, and over the next couple of days you're going to hear some of that, and it is a goal for me for this company. And what that allows for is on-demand application release. And that is the goal, I'm sure, for most of you and the organizations that you represent. So the first step on this journey is Sauce Analytics. And we have released 1.0. We've gotten some great feedback on it. We recognize that there is a lot more that we can do. Once again, the more information that we can solicit from you in a way that makes you and your teams feel comfortable, the better and the more informed we can keep you, the better the analytics capabilities that we can provide. And if you haven't seen it, it's part of the UI. There's also an API so you can include it in with your company's dashboards. The other announcement that I want to make is we invested last year in a learning management system that is instructor-led and has labs. And we did that because we recognize that there is a gap in the ability for people to scale up their Selenium teams training. Selenium's hard. Writing Selenium is difficult. If there are people in your organization that are making a transition from waterfall and they have been doing manual testing and they need to be part of a team that's doing Selenium, that's a very big ask. One of the reasons that we did the training was to help those people come up to speed. What we have done is recorded all of that training and made it available for free for everybody. And we really would like to have people coming out of code academies everywhere, or anybody that needs to come up to speed on Selenium or Appium, get that training for free. So we still have the instructor-led trainings, which we have reduced the price on pretty dramatically and given this training away for free. And we really would like to have Sauce Labs be seen as a participant in helping people make this transition to automated functional testing. So you all here are part of a very big community. And I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your busy schedules to come and really dig in on what your fellow testers are doing and what we as a vendor are doing. We've run over 1 billion tests. It's a pretty good legacy of tests. A lot of tests. We're running about 1.5 million a day. We have 3,500 plus customers, 25,000 testers using us actively, and some good recognition from analysts and industry pundits. That's not nearly as important to me as those of you who came to meet with us here. I mean, this is a special event for everybody at Sauce Labs. So as you saw from SauceBot, the loud character that introduced me, the theme is level up. And as a vendor, we recognize we need to level up. As you're getting an opportunity to learn from some experts and level up your skills. Dave Hefner is a very well-regarded and well-known to us expert in Selenium. Jason Huggins is a founder of Sauce Labs and also one of the original authors of the Selenium product. And Jason Hand is a DevOps expert, and all three of these guys are going to be speaking, and it's really a great opportunity. We have, as you've seen, a lot of saucers around in red shirts. Grab any of us. Let us know how we can help, answer any questions, make this a great experience for you. We're here for you. And then we have a whole variety of different kinds of customers speaking from different kinds of organizations, both enterprise and smaller, more nimble, faster growing companies, and I hope that you gain some experience from their talks. And then tonight, Applitools is sponsoring a really fun event. It's called CoinOp. It's at a venue near our headquarters location down in Soma, and it's games and beer and food, and look forward to you participating. And then a big thanks to our sponsors. And to do a first event like this is a big deal. I mean, there's a lot of work. Terry Abneem and Bill McGee and the marketing team have really done a great job to put this together. But in addition to them, our sponsors have been very active in participation, and we're very thankful for that participation. That's all I have.